Here are the 2025 Volvos. This is the XC60 T8 all-wheel drive dark theme plus versus the XC90 T8 Ultra 6-passenger. I'm going to explain the differences between them, some pros and cons, and the comparable rivals. I'm Anthony from Hawkeye Rides, and in the front, you're going to notice the same LED Thor daytime running and LED headlight assembly that brushes into the grille. Now the configuration is going to be different on the dark theme because it's all in the glossy black, and the interior of the grille will have the vertical bars when you go into the ultra trim with the chrome surrounding it, so it has that bright fascia for the exterior, giving it more of that luxury vibe. The XC90 sits up a little bit, the XC60 sits down a little bit. The dark theme continues on the lower of the XC60, continue with the chrome on the XC90. Both will receive front and rear parking sensors with the 360-degree reverse camera. That starts on the Plus trim, and it carries up into the Ultra. Underneath the hood is going to house the same exact engines, which is a 2.0-liter, 4-cylinder turbocharged engine with an 18.8 kilowatt battery pack. That's going to have a combined of 455 horsepower and 523 pound-feet of torque paired to an 8-speed Geartronic automatic transmission. Both are all-wheel drive setups, and the difference in MPGs is actually pretty light whenever you're considering there's around a 500-pound difference in weight. This is longer, wider, and taller, and more of a box frame, whereas that one's a little bit more aerodynamic. However, the XC90 is a 50-50 weight distribution, which is the best in class compared to any of the Germans, whether you're talking about BMW, Audi, Mercedes, even going into Lexus, Infiniti, or Acura, in which Infiniti and Acura, they don't even make a plug-in variant that's a third row, nor a second row variant. You have to go into Lexus in order to do so, in which the price of that is going to escalate a lot more so than this. MPGs is going to achieve 58 combined, with 27 MPGs combined whenever you're using just gas, with a 5-hour charge for both of them, with a full range of around 530 miles. So you're not going to be stopping that much. And towing capabilities increases to 5,000 pounds on the XC90, whereas the XC60 is at 3,500 pounds. The MPGs is at 63 combined. MPGs for just gas only is at 28, with a total range for full electric around 35 miles, and that's around 33 miles, and the total range with gas and electric combined at 580 miles. So either example that you get, you're going to have a ton of savings, and the major difference really comes down to whether you need a 5, a 6, or 7 passenger layout. The Plus starts with 19-inch wheels. This is more of the ultra trim level wheel, and 18-inch will be the base wheel design. Both vehicles, you can option the 4-corner air suspension, which we have that option for the XC90, and these upgraded 21-inch wheels. So it's going to not only be taller, wider, and bigger, but we have a bigger wheel setup. Now you can get a 21-inch wheel if you choose for the XC60, and the nice thing about Volvo is you can inter-exchange these wheels through the dealership, which makes it a lot more easy because I personally own a QX60. I changed my wheels to 22-inch, and it was quite difficult to get everything fit, especially for the wheel hub or the centric hub. And the performance difference is not going to be night and day. You're at 5 seconds here, the XC60 at 4.5 seconds, which I wouldn't expect it to be too different considering it's the same, and 500 pounds doesn't really change the ball game that much. But when you're thinking about the rivals pricing, it does. Because if you go into BMW, this is going to be just a few $1,000s more than near an MSRP starting price of an X5. And you know, this is a third row. They don't do a third row in the X5. So you have to bump it up to the X7, in which all of those vehicles are right around $90,000 and $100,000 to get something similar to this, in which you're not going to get a plug-in hybrid. And the same thing with Mercedes and Audi. So you're seeing the savings trickle in, which would put you at a Lexus tier, because like I said, Infiniti and Acura don't have anything that would be comparable to a plug-in hybrid. And then when you're thinking about that style opposed to this, it's going to be a little bit more Toyota derived. Volvo, Scandinavians kind of take it up a notch for that luxury. The XC60 with the dark theme carries on into the lower with the fake exhaust outlets, which I'm okay with, but when you're talking about how much performance is underneath the hood of these vehicles, I hate to say it, but dual exhaust would have really made this stand out of class because it looks like a fly underneath the radar type of vehicle. If you got pulled over in one of these, more or less the cop would say, you know how fast you were going, and you would probably jokingly laugh and say, I have no idea. And he would say, you know what, you're going 80, 90 miles an hour. This is a Volvo, slow it down. No, this is a T8 getting quick 0 to 60s, and that's not necessarily what this vehicle is meant for, which makes it even more unique because whenever you're thinking BMW, Audi, Mercedes, that's what you're thinking is performance. Lexus didn't step it up a notch like Volvo did. Power liftgate, 17.8 cubic feet of storage. We'll get a storage net with a 12-volt charger. Underneath the floor, we'll have the dividers where you can put your cable for charging with a pass-through. Unfortunately, to maximize the 63.8 cubic feet of storage, you do have to go into the back to fold the seats down at a 40-20-40 split to maximize the cargo capacity. Power liftgate going into 12.6 cubic feet of storage, which is just a touch over 5 cubic feet less than the standard XC60. You got a storage nook, little area here you can put some bottles, 12-volt charger, and because we have the air suspension, you can lower and raise it right here to make it a lot more easier. And it goes really quick too, unlike other vehicles that have this air suspension. Bag holders on both sides. LED interior lights, split fold the third row. That's going to increase cargo to 65.5 cubic feet, which is 2 cubic feet more than the full storage capacity of the XC60. Unfortunately, you do have to go into the back seat to fold down these captain seats or the bench configuration. It will fold down flat, maxing cargo to 85.7 cubic feet. XC90. Ten-way power seat adjustment for the front, standard heated front seats. The Ultra will get ventilated front seats, premium Napa leather, memory for the driver. 16-way power seat adjustment for the front, heated, ventilated, premium Napa leather seats, memory for the driver and passenger. The XC60 headroom and leg room. It is a driver-focused setup. The plush trim starts with the open pore wood. Heads-up display goes onto the Ultra. Auto-dimming rear-view mirror with a long pano moonroof. And a 9-inch vertical infotainment screen that is Google Base with Google Apps, Google Map, Google Store, Google Assist, and Apple CarPlay, which is not wirelessly. Put it into reverse and a 360-degree reverse camera when you click onto here, and you can click on the different icons to see all around the vehicle, so it makes it a little bit easier for the reversing perspective. Dual climate control settings is standard. Click onto this and this will take you to all the apps. This is kind of your quick wedges, and you'll still have a physical knob so you could turn or change the audio sound system. Wood comes into play that opens up into a card holder and a change holder, the key fob for the XC60. Slide this open and you got a little area here for the actual key fob, 12 volt, gloss black surrounding it. The gear knob is going to be different. You can get the crystal when you get into the Ultra. This is going to be sporty, pushed back. It's a medium size with a USB port, leather wrap steering wheel. It's heated because we have the climate package, multi-function. The gauge cluster has a 12.3 digital reader that you can go through an array of content, as well as your turn-by-turn navigation. Door panel and dash configured together, and when you get the upgraded Harman Kardon or the Bower & Wilkins, it will receive the aluminum mesh. The XC90, because this is the Ultra, you're going to have the heads-up display, auto-dimming rear-view mirror with a digital rear-view mirror. This is an upgraded feature with a long pano moonroof and headroom, as well as leg room. It's going to be a little bit more wide, still driver focus with the open pore wood inlays and the same infotainment gauge cluster layout with the two-tone for the steering wheel and the crystal knob for the gear lever. And the storage will be identical, as well as the same exact key fob. Going back to the door, it's going to have soft materials everywhere here. One touch up and down for all the windows with a long storage pocket, and the same size opening for the XC60, as well as ambient lighting for the top and the bottom of the interior. The back seats for the XC60 headroom and legroom. You're going to have a storage net behind both of the front seats, heated rear seats because of the climate package with a little storage area, 2 USB ports, cup holders with an armrest. The door is going to start off with the air vent on the side pillar, and it's going to be more of the everyday materials here. It's going to be soft to touch with a smaller size storage pocket sliding into the center. Leg space is not going to be too much of an issue unless somebody puts the seat back. Feet space will be shared as well. Butt and shoulder space is not necessarily an issue, just depends on the passenger or driver. And headroom, you could fit 5 in the XC60. Whereas the XC90, we have captain seats. You can also have a bench. Storage is going to be behind both of the front seats. Dual climate control settings with heated second row USB ports, cup holders here, and a full pass-through. And you can also move these seats so they will fold back. And you can also move them forward and back to give more space to the third row occupants with the air vent in the side. Manual sunshades. The wood comes into play with the aluminum mesh for the sound system, soft to touch where it needs to be, and about the same size storage pocket. But because this is a third row vehicle, check this out. Easy access, just pull this and it'll fold up forward. And that's the opening that you have to get into the third row to fit 2 more, giving us a 6-seater layout with a little storage. Cup holder on the side with another storage box, air vents, headroom. It's doable at 6'3". Move these back. My arm is stuck. Just kidding. Leg space isn't too bad, especially because it's not a bench. So it really just boils down, do you need a 5 or 6 seat when it comes to this configuration? Around 500 pounds less, the same power underneath the hood, but faster, the XC60. Here we go. I mean, if you don't need a third row and you're all right with a 5-seat vehicle, because you could get a 6 or 7-seat passenger for the XC90, you may want to consider the XC60 because you're going to have just as much interior space. The cargo is going to be a little bit less. The towing is going to be a little bit less. The sound deadening is not going to be as airtight as the XC90. However, the savings that you're getting is crazy because you're around 66 grand and this is featured up. When you're going into the XC90, you're going to be spending another $10,000 to get something comparable to this. And because we have the Ultra trim, it can touch bases into the $80,000 and $90,000 price quickly, depending on the features that you put on it. So you're going to get a huge savings, better MPGEs combined here, but better dynamics there because it's an actual perfect 50-50 weight distribution. Both of the vehicles I feel you'll be perfectly happy with because it has more than enough amenities for luxury and technology, and it's not something quite like the Germans where they're really just stressing screens everywhere. It's still simplified, and yet you're still driving a vehicle opposed to something that is just all tech driven. But then on the con, it does not have Android Auto, and we just received Apple CarPlay a couple years back. Which, when you're thinking this is a Google-based system, it would have been nice that they worked out all the kinks when they changed this a few years back. I do like how seamless it is. Last year was a little bit glitchy. This year they have touched it up a bit, so the updates have helped. And when you go into the Plus trim, this is the sweet spot for either of the T8s because you're getting all the amenities starting here, meaning the leather interior, 360-degree reverse camera. Unfortunately, you have to go into the Ultra trim to get the quad climate control settings and to get the upgraded Harman Kardon sound system, but in the same aspect, when you go up the tiers, it's not a huge difference in price. So I like that the price layout is still somewhat inexpensive considering the total value that you're capturing. Some other cons: no wireless charging pad, no wireless Apple CarPlay, but then on the Pro, It's a smooth driving vehicle. It's super quiet. Something that you can easily get a speeding ticket because it's so powerful and luxurious, which is hard to find all blended into a PHEV. I also like how this is a little bit more small and not as wide, so you can get in and out of areas a little bit more quicker, because let's face it, the XC90 is Volvo's biggest vehicle. Now the XC90 T8, boy oh boy, same engine, same performance numbers. It's a little bit slower in the 0 to 60, better weight distribution. You are picked up a little bit more so here. You have more interior space, more cargo capacity, more towing capacity. There's just a lot of more that you get with the XC90 opposed to the XC60. Even though you're going to get a little bit more MPGEs and MPGs as well as range with the XC60, I hate to say it, this is kind of the sweet spot vehicle, and if I'm looking to purchase my next SUV, this is something I may consider, because it's a plug-in hybrid. You're getting over 50 MPGEs combined, and you're still getting 27 MPGs combined if you just use gas with a 5-hour charge, which when you charge your cell phone at nighttime, chances are you're charging it more than that. So it's pretty quick. Even if you go to work, plug it up. Whenever you're going stoplight to stoplight, you're hitting the brakes, regenerative brakes. So whether you go XC60 or 90, you're taken care of with that. Maneuverability, it's light. The steering, you're not going to feel any of the imperfections in the road. This also has the air suspension, which is an upgrade, and you can also get that with the XC60, which if it's on the lot, I would consider it. I wouldn't personally order it because the suspension is good either way you go. But another difference besides the length, the width, and that 0 to 60 is the braking isn't going to be as airtight here, but it's still pretty solid. And the turn radius is really more at a third lane, which I wish that was a little bit more tight, but let's rock and roll. But then this is going to be a lot more quiet. This is also the Ultra, which unlocks all of the sound deadening. You have the acoustic side windows. The front window is also acoustic. So you are driving something that's a little bit more prestige, and for a long drive it's going to be a little bit more comfortable because you have the captain seat configuration. Now obviously if you use the third row, you're not going to have a lot of cargo capacity, but that's in every single third row SUV. And when you're thinking about rival perspective, I mean, Infiniti is what usually is something of my sweet spot. But they've increased the price. I mean, you're going to be paying near 70 grand. They've also decreased the engine, and they still don't have a hybrid or a plug-in hybrid variant to compete with something like this. And you're getting more than double the miles when you're comparing it. And the same thing for Acura. I like that Acura has a Type S because it's so cool for the performance. But let's face it, this is going to be faster. This is going to be better MPGs, a smoother ride. You have air suspension on all four corners if you option it, and going against Lexus, it just doesn't make sense that you would go and get an F Sport variant and spend $80,000 to $90,000 to get something that's going to be similar to this, but this is going to be better with the luxury, less plastic amenities. It's going to have some hard materials, which is a con to me, as well as not having a wireless charging pad or wireless Apple CarPlay or even Android Auto. But every vehicle isn't perfect, and it's not going to be as long as an X7, but you're getting more amenities in the interior than an X5 because you get a third row. You're not going to receive heated third row seats, which is also a con, and no soft closed doors. These are upgrades to the vehicle, but at least you're still getting a heads-up display, a digital rear view mirror, 360-degree reverse camera. Not a huge fan that you have to continuously touch the button in order to use it, but it is something that is still yet a practical vehicle. In putting these two side to side, I personally would go XC90. It's not that large of a vehicle, something like an Escalade. It's more sleek, kind of composed towards the Q7 style, but performance not similar to an SQ7, don't get me wrong. But it's crazy that you're getting this. And I'm already going past the speed limit. Luxury more interior space than the XC60, more cargo capacity, more towing for just maybe $10,000 to $15,000 more. And it's the same exact engine underneath the hood. But you will be losing some MPGs. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. Check out the next video, merchandise, website, and Instagram. Leave a comment and a like. And I'd like to thank Crown Volvo Cars for giving us these two 2025 Volvos, the XC60 versus the XC90, both T8 for our car review.